I used to think that being married for 12 years meant something. That the many times we had spent together had given us respect, if not love. I was so wrong. There were always signs. The veiled rejections. The jokes about me that weren't really jokes. How her friends looked at me with a hint of disdain. But I ignored them because I wanted peace more than a fight. The trip was meant to be a holiday with her friends and their partners over the weekend. A house by the lake, grills, and walking paths. Nothing out of the ordinary. Even though I wasn't feeling well, I agreed to go on a day trip to a nearby national park. I should have stayed put. I sat down, tired, after hiking for hours. I need a break. I said, my head hurting from being thirsty. You guys can go ahead. I'll get caught up. They gave an understanding nod. She kissed me on the cheek and said she'd bring water back. Then she and her husband went around the bend and were gone. An hour went by. Then 2. I called her several times and got messages each time. As the sun went down, it hurt a lot to walk back to the parking lot. Our car was gone. The understanding hit me like a ton of bricks. They were gone. A park guard let me use the office phone after I asked for it. The last person to answer was my wife, who laughed in the background. Are you still there? We thought you would figure it out faster. Think of it as a little journey. More laughs. We are already about halfway home. Have fun on the walk. After that, she hung up. The ranger looked at me with sadness that hurt more than my sore feet. 200 miles away from home. Not a car. Not much cash. There's not a hotel for miles. The mean joke, the careless meanness of it, took my breath away. As I slept on a bench in the ranger station that night, something inside me broke and then came back together. The pain became clear as a bell. It wasn't a joke gone wrong. Years of rudeness came to a head with this. The last message that I didn't mean anything. 3 days. It took me that long to get home because I took the bus, hitched a ride, and walked. She avoided my calls and sent me mean texts for 3 days. Are you still having fun? Getting close to home or still enjoying nature? Each one was another thing that hurt our marriage. Something very important changed inside me during those 3 days. The pressing need to know why they did what they did and why she did what she did became less important. The why was no longer important. That was only my answer. I got to our area as the sun came up on the 4th day. I was dirty, tired, and different. I didn't go home right away, though. First, I had to see someone who could help me make sure that my wife would get exactly what she deserved when she got back from her long trip with her friends. I promised myself something as I stood on the curb and looked at the house we had shared. There would never be another chance for her to hurt me after this. Once they're broken, some ties can't or shouldn't be put back together. But I kept that thought in mind as I walked toward the hardware shop that had just opened for the day. The clerk at the hardware shop raised an eyebrow at how I looked, but she didn't ask me any questions when I bought new locks. The bank was my next stop. I took out half of our savings, which was just enough to pay for a hotel room and a lawyer. Messages from her friends kept coming through on my phone. Different kinds of, can't you take a joke? Also, why are you making a big deal out of nothing? I shut them all up. The locksmith showed up within an hour. He was quiet and worked quickly. Issues in your marriage? When he saw my wedding ring, he asked. I just nodded because I was too tired to explain. He gave me the new keys and said, "Been there. Remember that it's easy to change the locks." I saw 3 days' worth of gunk circle the drain in the hotel shower. When I looked in the mirror, I saw burnt skin and hollow eyes. I hardly knew who I was. The man who was looking back looked older and tougher. Okay. For what came next, I needed to be that tough. My lawyer listened to me talk about the loss without stopping. She typed quickly and said, emotional cruelty that could be illegal. They left you somewhere dangerous. She explained the breakup process in a very clear way. Do you have proof that the person was left? The call logs and text exchanges. Yes, I did. Everything was written down. My wife, on the other hand, still didn't know. On social media, she posted a picture of herself and her friends celebrating their funny prank at a vacation 3 hours away. Toasts are made with high glasses. Selfies by the pool. Not the slightest bit of regret. Each picture made me more determined. I carefully changed passwords, kept important papers safe, and told my boss about my situation over the course of 3 days. I went back to our bank to open a new account. It looked like the boss knew what I was talking about when I told him why. Unfortunately common, she said in a low voice. Protecting yourself is the right thing to do. On the 3rd day, my phone rang just before midnight. The screen showed her name quickly. I replied, but didn't say anything. She said, "Hey." She was drunk, so her voice was slurred. "Tomorrow we'll be going home. Are you not still mad?" Her tone went from being friendly to annoyed when I kept quiet. That's it. It was only a joke. It was funny to everyone. Even the guys. I am going to wait. I finally answered and then hung up. Those 3 words included a lot of things. A promise. An alert. For the first time since being left, I slept well. I went home the morning of their return to finish getting ready. On the kitchen table were the divorce papers and pictures of the texts she'd sent making fun of my situation. I had also printed out photos of her social media posts about the joke, all of which were bad things about her. The security camera I put up caught her coming in. As she walked up to the door with her overnight bags over her shoulder, she laughed. When her key didn't work, she got confused, annoyed, and finally angry as she slammed on the door and yelled my name. While sitting in the coffee shop across the street with my phone, I watched it all. I was sure that I was doing the right thing. She finally called, and her voice was shrill from anger. How come I can't get in? Have you changed the locks? I was sure that I had. I'm going to be home soon. I told you. Let's talk. She began to argue, but I cut the call off. I thought about what I was going to say as I walked back toward the house that would soon be hers or mine alone. Please don't accuse. Don't raise your voice. Just the calm telling of what will happen. As we took each step, the moment that would change the rest of our lives got closer. It was the first time in years that I was sure of my direction. She was sitting on the front steps when I walked up to her. Her face was a mess of feelings. I could hear her words before she even saw me. She stood up quickly. It's not funny. It's been an hour since I came out here. I didn't say anything as I walked by her to open the door. I heard her voice inside. You changed the locks, right? Amazingly grown-up answer to a funny joke. I turned around to face her and put my keys on the counter. The speech I had practiced disappeared. Instead, I just gave her the folder with the divorce forms in it. She stared at them, not sure what to think at first. Suddenly, it hit them. You must be kidding, she said in a whisper, her voice getting very low. I said in a steady voice, 200 miles. You left me 200 miles away from home. No way to get around. Not enough money. No close places to stay. You didn't answer my pleas for help and made fun of my position. You took more time off to celebrate. This is not what someone who loves their partner does. The person who does these things doesn't like them. She began to cry, and her tears seemed like they had been practiced. Everyone thought it was just meant to be funny. To stop her, I took out my phone and played a video of her laughing on the first call. Enjoy the walk, she said in her voice. It was a loud, mean sound that filled the kitchen. The house was normally very quiet. I could think about things for 3 days while I tried to get home. When the recording finished, I kept going. We have 3 days to think about our marriage. This wasn't a one-time thing. This is the worst possible example of how you really feel about me. Her behavior quickly changed from being defensive to downplaying things to feeling sudden regret. She begged, "I made a terrible mistake. We can make this right. We are able to see a counselor." Her face lit up with anger when I didn't answer. "You're responding too much." It was the only mistake they had made in 10 years of marriage. The papers were where I pointed. The information about my lawyer is included. I'm going to stay somewhere else until this is fixed. When I tried to leave, she grabbed my arm and dug her nails into my skin. "You can't end our marriage because of this. What does everyone think? What am I going to say to my adults?" I laughed for the first time. "Tell them the truth. Tell them you left your husband for fun, and he finally saw how valuable he was." I gently took her hand off of mine. "The house is yours until we decide how to divide the assets. I've only taken what is really mine." She walked with me to the door, raising her voice with each step. "What am I going to do if you take the house? How can I pay for everything? I'm all set to start my new job now." I thought it was strange that she sounded so desperate. Not care about our friendship, but about making her feel safe and comfortable. "Before leaving me behind, you should have thought about these questions." I answered as I walked outside. Just then, her friend's car pulled up, and they could see their interested faces through the windows. "Just the right time. Your team of helpers has come. They might be able to help you understand what will happen because of what you did." As I walked to my car, I heard her begin to cry out loud as her friends walked up. I caught bits and pieces of her story. What a jerk I was being. How out of line is my response? One of my friends rushed over to try to stop me. "Are you not aware that this is going too far?" She asked for it. "It was just a joke that went badly." I stopped and looked her straight in the eyes. "Want me to leave you in a national park and see how stupid it feels?" She took a step back and was silent for a moment. "That's what I thought," I said as I walked to my car. As I drove away, I felt a strange lift. I wasn't as angry as I had been for days. Instead, something else was taking its place. Not really happy, but clarity. The group of people huddled around my soon-to-be ex-wife on our front yard looked lively in the rear-view mirror. I changed the mirror so I could no longer see them. I had to pay full attention to the road ahead of me now. The damage was quick and loud. My phone was full of texts from her family, friends, and even people we knew from years ago but hadn't talked to in years. I shut them all up and only answered when my lawyer sent me news. Her message to me said that my wife had called her and made threats and pleas for peace. My lawyer told me it was normal behavior. Do not change your mind. A week went by. I got used to my extended stay hotel and was pleasantly surprised by how quiet and peaceful it was. My attention turned to rebuilding. I put in extra hours at work, joined a gym, and got back in touch with people I had lost touch with during my marriage but who had once told me they were worried about how she was treating me. Then there was the effort on social media. My wife's carefully thought-out posts made it seem like she was the victim of an overreacting husband who left her because of a simple mistake. A lot of comments came in, showing sympathy and criticizing my character. A few of them were barely disguised threats. I wrote down everything and gave it to my lawyer. He added it to our growing file. Someone at work texted me one afternoon, "She's outside." I left through the back door to avoid the argument she was clearly trying to start. That night, she sent me a long email apologizing, in which she talked about how much worse it was for her than for me to be left alone. She wrote, "I never meant to hurt you, even though the proof showed that she had. I've learned from this." But then the money was used to get back at them. The joint credit card was maxed out on pointless items. Attempts to take money out of our surviving joint accounts, but the freezes I asked for stopped them. Each move made me feel better about my choice to end the marriage, but I still missed what we could have been. The settlement meeting was set for exactly 1 month after the breakup. I got there early, calm, and ready. My lawyer gave me a nod of approval for how calm I was. She said that many of the people come in upset. You help me do my job better. My wife walked in with her lawyer, a strict woman with cold eyes. Without a doubt, I could tell that my wife had changed. Put on conservative clothes, light makeup, and pull your hair back. The picture of regret. We quickly looked at each other, and then she looked down, which is a well-known way to show regret. First, the mediator set some ground rules. But right away, my wife's lawyer spoke up. Before we start, my client wants to say something. After some thought, the facilitator nodded. My wife shook as she opened a piece of paper. One more show. She began, her voice shaking. I made a terrible mistake. I did something careless that I will always regret. But I think our 10 years of marriage deserve more than a quick split. I want another chance to show that I love and care about you. Her lawyer stepped in. My friend is going to therapy to work on her behavior. She is open to any fair terms for getting back together with him, even postnuptial agreements with harsh punishments for any future wrongdoing. I put my hand on my lawyer's arm as she started to talk. May I? She said yes. For the first time in weeks, I looked my wife straight in the eyes. I liked the way you said it, I said evenly. But this isn't about getting punished or making things right. This has to do with recognizing. I finally realized that we're not compatible at all. You can't save anything. My wife's front broke. She yelled, "That's not true," and started to cry right away. Our marriage was good. That's what everyone said. Someone in charge raised their hand. However, my wife went on, her voice rising. It costs you 10 years to make one mistake. Who does that? I kept my cool. There was more than one mistake. In the end, it was the end of a trend. The abandonment just made it impossible to ignore that trend any longer. I went to talk to the mediator. I'm ready to be fair in the cash settlement. I just need this to be fixed quickly. My wife's lawyer whispered something important in her ear, but she furiously shook her head no. She said, "He's punishing me. This is just plain payback." Her voice dropped to a hiss, and her eyes got narrow. I feel bad about this. I loved you more than anyone else ever will. Someone from the middle asked for a break. My lawyer put his hand on my shoulder as we left the building. She whispered, "That outburst just made our case stronger." I nodded, but it didn't make me feel good. There was no winner in this case. Only the survivors. The mediation did not work. My wife turned down every reasonable offer and wanted counseling instead of dividing the money. In the end, her lawyer took her aside. Through glass walls, you could hear them arguing in a whisper. I stayed where I was, and a strange calm came over me. This was also known. She couldn't accept reality when it went against what she wanted. We are going to court. After the fact, my lawyer told me. Don't worry, though. Judges have seen people act like this before. Her ways of putting things off won't work forever. I nodded, accepting that the deadline would be longer but still determined. What I hadn't expected was the split in the community. Friends picked sides. People in my family who used to treat me like I was their own now looked at me with suspicion. My wife's story that I was mean and never forgave her took root in strong ground. Are you sure you won't give her another chance? Asked a friend over coffee, his face showing worry. Everybody messes up sometimes. I looked at him and thought about how he might feel being left alone in the woods. When he asked for help, people made fun of him. Some mistakes show us basic truths. I answered. He never got in touch with me again. 3 months after she left me, her therapist sent me a letter suggesting that we meet together. My lawyer told me not to do it. She told him it was a trap. People can twist and use anything you say against you. I said no to the invitation by sending a short, polite message. The answer came right away. An endless stream of texts accusing me of hurting her recovery and being cold and mean. The next day, I changed my phone number. Work became my safe place. I threw myself into projects and got praise that I hadn't gotten while I was married. I saw how much of her energy she had been using to control her feelings and protect herself against her subtle criticisms. It was great not having that steady drain on me. Then there was the sneak attack at my parents' house during Sunday dinner. She showed up without being asked, crying and holding pictures of better times. My mother, who was always there for her, set up the meeting. My mom begged me to just talk to her. That's all she wants. I said goodbye and went outside to gather my thoughts. My dad came after. He was clearly upset as he said, "I don't understand why you can't forgive her." I turned around and became angry. Someone left Mom alone in the middle of nowhere as a joke. Would you forgive them? Who made fun of her while she was having trouble getting home? He fell silent, consideration dawning on his face. He finally said, "I didn't know it was that way." "It was a mistake," she said. "You got behind on hiking, and they thought you'd catch the next bus." I said in a quiet voice, "There was no shuttle. It's just the wild and getting dark." She was very aware of what she was doing. I showed him the saved text messages. He got angry as he read them, especially when he got to the ones where she joked about me being gone for good. He went back to the house and said, "Wait here." I saw him talk to her through the window and saw her face change from confidence to fear. In shock, my mom put her hands to her mouth. After a few minutes, my wife yelled and slammed the door behind her. As she went by, she didn't look at me. That night, my dad called to say sorry. He said with a sad heart that they should have asked for your side first. I'm sorry. It lifted a huge weight off my shoulders and gave me recognition that I didn't even know I needed so badly. The next court date was coming up. My lawyer told me that my wife had hired a tougher lawyer, one who is known for firing lawyers who don't do their jobs. She told them to get ready for personal attacks. They will try to make you feel something. I looked over our past the night before court. Not only being left alone, but also being subtly pushed down for years, making fun of me, and being friends with people who clearly didn't like me. I had let it all happen because I thought her behavior was funny and thought her staying with me for a long time was love. Never again. The morning came with an unexpected sense of peace. No matter what happened in court, I had already won the most important battle. I felt good about myself again. I looked at my mirror as I tied my tie. When he turned around, the man was stronger, smarter, and ready for whatever came next. The courtroom was smaller than I thought it would be. I could hear my wife's worried breathing from 3 seats away. Her new lawyer, a guy with silver hair and dangerous eyes, kept whispering in her ear the whole time. My own lawyer was sitting next to me, calm and ready. She said, "Remember. Keep your cool no matter what they say." It was clear right away what their plan was. Killing someone's reputation. The lawyer said I was controlling, unreasonable, and quick to respond too strongly. He said that during their 10 years of marriage, my client made one bad decision that they felt bad about. She has frequently apologized for this mistake. But her husband refuses to be reconciled, which points to deeper issues of anger. My lawyer's response was well thought out. Text messages, social media posts, recorded phone calls, and a timeline of my 3-day trip home were all shown to her. This included receipts from the bus stop and the motel where I'd stayed one night. The park ranger's description of my condition when I was found was the most damaging. Dehydrated, lost, and possibly in danger if it got dark before help arrived. The end result for my lawyer was that this was not an innocent joke. This was an intentional act of abuse that put my client's health at risk. The later behavior, including insulting texts, parties, and defamatory posts on social media, shows that the person is still mean. The judge's face stayed blank the whole time, but I noticed that her eyes got narrow as the proof was being shown. The judge raised his hand when my wife's lawyer started to talk again. She said, "I've heard enough. We're going to break for 30 minutes. I expect everyone to be ready for my choice about temporary orders when we meet again." Even though her lawyer tried to stop her, my wife went up to her in the hallway. She hissed, "This is crazy. You're making a mess of everything for nothing." I looked at her face. The shapes that were once familiar were now twisted with fear and anger. There wasn't any love there. There might not have been at all. I didn't think it was nothing. I spoke quietly back. She flinched at my cool voice, as if she were expecting or even hoping for me to get angry. Before she could answer, her lawyer pulled her away, and his face was very angry. When court started up again, the judge's decision was final. Orders made temporarily in my favor. I had been given sole use of our home. Temporary spouse support set at a low amount because we've been married for a long time and my wife works. The most important thing is that she clearly admits that being abandoned was a big part of her choice. The judge looked right at my wife and said, "The court does not approve of psychological cruelty." From what I've seen, the respondent's actions showed a willful disregard for the petitioner's safety and well-being. Outside the building, it poured down rain, which matched my wife's tears as she huddled with her lawyer under a broken umbrella. I didn't feel good about her pain, I only felt relieved that the truth had been seen. My lawyer put his hand on my arm. She said, "This is just the beginning. Keep an eye out." But that wasn't the start. It was over. After 2 days, my wife's lawyer called my lawyer and made an offer to settle. Terms that make sense. There is no need to go to court again. My lawyer told me that she finally understood her position. The judge's response scared her. I signed the final divorce papers 6 months to the day after being left alone in the woods. With the stroke of a pen, I ended the marriage that had taken up 10 years of my life. When I left the lawyer's office, I turned my face toward the sun and felt its warmth like a blessing. That night, a text message from a number I didn't know came. Of course, her. I didn't mean for this to happen. It said, "I hope you can forgive me someday." I thought about answering, but chose not to. Some stories don't need an ending. A year went by. The house was sold. Too full of memories, some good and some bad. Changed cities. Built a new life piece by piece. Moving up in your career. Making new friends. In the end, even careful dating. The story of being left behind became one I rarely told. Not because it hurt, but because it wasn't what made me who I was anymore. Then there was the surprise meeting at a gathering. She looked different. When she saw me across the hotel hallway, she was thinner, her hair was shorter, and her eyes were wary. I thought about avoiding her for a moment. I instead politely nodded and went on with my chat. She came up to me later while I was waiting for a lift. She said in a shaky voice, "You look good." It was funny how different she seemed from the confident woman who had laughed at my anxiety when I thanked her. "I've been going to therapy," she said next, her words coming out quickly. "I know what I did now. That was so wrong. I'm really sorry." The elevator showed up. I held the door open while I thought about what to say. Finally, I told her, "I'm glad therapy has helped you. I hope you're happy." Simple words that are true but far away. As the doors closed between us, I got into the lift. Our eyes met one last time. After being left alone, I understood at that moment that my journey had, ironically, led me to freedom. Not only from a bad marriage, but also from anger that almost destroyed me. I made it through not only those 3 terrible days, but also the days that came after them that were even worse. And by making it through, I found myself again. You.